Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of the Junior Chemist. My name is Jose Tomaselli, and this here right next to me is Sarah. She's a medical student at Sapienza University. She's currently enrolled in medical school. She's a fifth year student, right?
Yeah, I will be starting fifth year in this coming October, so in 1 month.
And she is here today with us because she is going to talk to us about some courses of the Sapienza curriculum for medicine. Which one of those is the most challenging? What can you do to do well in these courses? How to even get accepted into medical school with a very good IMAT score? And just in general about her experience as a Sapienza student. So without further ado, Sarah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Serra. As you said, I'm a fifth year medical student in Sapienza. I did not join medical school straight out of high school. I took a few years of a break where I worked for different companies such as PayPal and Facebook. And one day I decided that I still wanted to be a doctor, and I quit my job, studied for the IMAT, and got into medical school. It has been a challenging 4 years, I'm not going to lie, but it's the best decision I ever made. I am very passionate about medicine in general and studying for my dream, I guess. So that's like a little bit of how I got to where I am now. I additionally, because, getting in has meant so much to me, that I have spent every year since joining helping other students achieve getting in as well. Like the day I got in was basically the happiest day of my life, and now I've spent a lot of times, doing interviews with guys like you or in the IMAC groups and the Facebook groups, because I really do want to help other students who want medicine to feel the same way I do. So yeah, that's me, that's who I am. I also recently started a YouTube channel. It's more of a personal thing. I don't really do directly IMAT related content. I will be moving more towards medicine in general, making it more accessible to public and for medical students, but I also stream, and there are IMAT students who come and ask me questions on the streams. So, I have a YouTube channel and an Instagram, and that's about it.
Exactly. So Sarah here is a content creator, as you correctly said. She is another useful resource for pre-med in Italy. And when I say pre-med, I mean anyone trying to get into medical school. I'm not just talking about people in the United States, because we have students from the United States as well. So guys, in Italy, it's like Venezuela. It's a single cycle degree where after graduating high school, you're going to take what we call an admissions exam. It's called the IMAT in Italy. It's going to cover everything that the MCAT covers, but the difference is that it's sort of, I guess, university level studies. I don't know, a little bit, but it's more high school level. And then as you prepare for it, you gain admission, and then you start. It's technically an equivalent to the MD degree in the United States. So once you move to the United States, you're going to take what we call the licensing exams to practice as a physician. In Italy, you finish medical school, right? And then you can practice as a general doctor, correct?
Technically, very technically correct. You need to sit 2 licensing exams, and you will need to do what's called a tirocinio, which is your mandatory service. And I think after your mandatory service, you can work in what are called ambulatorio. And these are basically like first aid clinics. They're not like, they don't even have GPs, but you will need to sit the specialization exam. And even to be a GP or a general practitioner, you will need to place in the licensing, like in the second part of the licensing exam.
I understand. Makes sense. It's always important to have that additional preparation. You can just release students into the world without an additional permit. Same in the United States. I agree completely.
I mean, sorry, I just realized now with COVID, they have changed the system. It used to be that after 6th year, you had to sit your license exam, but because they were so desperate to pump out a class of doctors, that they actually removed that licensing exam. So I'm not sure if that's a very temporary measure, but as of yet, there is no need to sit the second licensing exam. And I think that was just like a very emergency, like we need to get a graduating class out right now to help with the situation. So there's no license exam right now, but there usually is, and they will probably bring it back.
I understand. They want to graduate students earlier, perhaps?
Not earlier, but what usually happens is that when you finish all of your subjects and your thesis, when you present your thesis and you finish all of your subjects, you have to apply for graduation which happens like multiple times a year. So you have to pick a date. But there is also another necessity, like to do the mandatory service, the tirocinio that I told you about. So once you have done all of these things, then you can apply for the license exam, which happens twice a year. And then once you do the license exam, that's when, okay, you can now go and work in an ambulatorio or do like minimal doctor things. But to actually specialize, you then need to sit a second exam. So when COVID happened and, you know, Italy was one of the countries that were hit very, very early and very, very badly. And they were very desperate to get more help on the wards and stuff. So they basically made it that if you fulfilled like all of your exam requirements and presented your thesis, you didn't have to wait to sign up for a graduation date and wait for the next license exam. They basically just like fast tracked you that the second you graduated, you were ready to be the doctor light. So that was like a measure of desperation, but you still had to finish all your exams and your thesis. You just didn't have to wait all that extra time to be able to sit the licensing exam.
Right.
So that's kind of what happened. I think they will bring it back, but at the moment there is still no licensing exam.
Right. But a little parenthesis here. I think they already developed the vaccine, right? Wasn't it in Russia?
I mean, yes, there is currently a Russian vaccine, but the entire world and a lot of professionals in the medical world are currently, I would say, hesitant. Once you get into medical school, you learn that making a vaccine takes up to 10 years. And with everything going on and the whole world working together, it was expected that they could maybe get that time down to 18 months. And now Russia has come out with a vaccine in 6 months. So I have not been looking into this. I'm only a fifth-year medical student. I'm not an expert on this at all. But from the very little knowledge that I have and knowing how long vaccines usually take, even with a fast-tracking process, I would say it's like a little bit concerning that Russia has come out with one so fast.
Yes.
Especially because like some vaccines also you need longer-term research on, because actually, this is a very long and different topic.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're going straight from the topic, I guess.
No, it's okay. But...
It's just, this is interesting to me too. I want to actually go into vaccine research and drug development. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, going further with Sapienza, tell us a little bit about your experience. What was your first year like?
So my first year was traumatic, to say the least.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. My problem, and like I'm super honest and super transparent about this, and anyone who knows me from my first year of studying in Sapienza can tell you that I hated it. I'm not going to even lie about it. My first year was miserable. I was a miserable person. I hated Rome. I hated Sapienza because a lot of it was to do with my mentality and attitude, but also it's because I was expecting things to my expectations and how university is where I'm from. So after living there for 4 years, that I can tell you that the problems that I had with Sapienza aren't actually unique to Sapienza or to Rome. So as I got to know more students from different universities and traveled to Italy, I finally understood that my gripes in first year that I had with the administration and with the organization of the course and, you know, with student support, I realized that this is actually just an Italian university thing. This isn't Sapienza University. And then as I realized that this is just the way it is, that's kind of when my mentality shifted. And I realized that actually in Sapienza, we are very, very lucky because we have some of the best professors in all of Italy for sure, and I would say in some cases in all of the world. Like I talked about this in another podcast I did.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what's the name of the podcast?
Huh?
What's the name of the podcast so people can search for it?
Oh, on Shalev's channel, on Shalev's YouTube channel. I did a 4-part interview with him about Sapienza, but our pharmacology teacher is insane. And one day, I just had to know what this guy had studied because there is no way he just studied pharmacology. And so I looked him up and I found multiple books that he published, but I found an article from the late 90s about how he was one of the top 5 scientists in the world by Time or Forbes magazine or something really high. And it was just insane seeing this. Wow. And now he's just teaching stupid medical students. And almost all of our professors are honestly so far in their field.
Okay, good. Wow.
So like when you weigh up, like sure, the administration and the organization, it's frustrating at times, but when I weigh it up with the quality of education and the experience and passion of the professors, like I would choose Sapienza like every time if I had to redo the IMAT again, knowing everything I do with all of its flaws and all of its strengths, I would pick Sapienza every time. If you asked me this in first year though, I would have told you to not go to Sapienza because it was the worst university in the world. So I know, but I'm just being honest with you. So in first year, I really hated it. But...
we at the Premed Hut love honesty. Okay, so keep going.
Yeah.
Girl. Keep doing you.
Yeah. So yeah, my first year was very problematic to say the least. But then as I realized the quality of professors and how these aren't unique problems to my university, that's kind of when like all of my perspectives shift, and I now see a lot of the positives and strengths in my course. So that would be how I would summarize my first year.
Wonderfully put. And I would also like to say that you're looking at a Unibo fan right here. I love Bologna. It's my favorite university. #1 in the world, okay, in Italy. Ain't first university. But I think Sapienza has the better program because it has more time, correct? Like the program in medicine is older than the Unibo one. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So Bologna actually would have been my other choice. Like if I had to redo the IMAT, I would be very torn between Sapienza and Bologna because Bologna is also a very historic university. And if you look into history of medicine, one of the first anatomy books ever was actually done in the University of Bologna. So it has like a very rich history, but what I also love about it is that it's a student-oriented city. So a lot of the town is based on student interest and it's priced so, and you know, there's like a lot of social activities. So personally, like if I was saying the IMAT, of course I would put Sapienza as my first choice again, but it would be very hard to choose between Bologna and Sapienza personally.
Okay.
But sorry, regarding like what you're saying with the history of the course, I don't really think that that's an indication of the quality of education you're going to get. And I don't want to badmouth any of the other universities, but I can tell you that there are other universities that have an older course than Bologna, and personally, I do not believe would hold up to the standards of Bologna. Well, standards is a wrong word because all of the universities are to a certain Italian standard. They wouldn't be certified otherwise. But I do think that the quality of teaching in Bologna doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be worse than Sapienza just because it's a younger program. That's just, sorry, that's what I wanted to clarify.
No, that's okay. That is okay. I went to university in America. My university was called the University of Tampa. And there I enrolled into what is called the pre-medicine concentration. And I am sure that some of the students who are listening to us know what I'm talking about. And I'm sure you know as well how the process of education in medicine works in the United States.
Yeah.
During my undergraduate experience, I came across what is called a clinical research internship after I graduated with, are you familiar with Tampa General Hospital?
Well, I know that Tampa is in Florida, so.
Yeah. Okay, so the Tampa General Hospital is one of the most important hospitals in the metropolitan area of Tampa. It offers care in several different specialties, and is classified in a number of other let's say treatment options. One of my bosses, her name is Dr. Jacinta Box. She led a research project dealing with the management of kidney transplant patients. Patients. I'm sorry about that. Okay.
It's okay.
It's just the test. Okay, the test is in 8 days, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. So what I was saying is that my boss, Dr. Jacinta Box, she was leading this research program. And I was one of the students responsible for compiling the data that she was going to use to determine, okay, are the patients getting better after we put them into the ICU 24 hours after they get the kidney transplant surgery? In our publication appeared in what we call the American Journal of Kidney Diseases. We don't need to talk about that. All I'm saying is that in the United States, like how the education differs a little bit from the US and Italy, these opportunities are available everywhere, like the tirocinio, like you mentioned. But in the United States, it's like almost, it's a prerequisite to getting into medical school. Once you're in medical school, I think I don't have enough experience in the MD area, but I think once you get into medicine, into Italy, it's sort of like either a master's or a doctorate degree that is 4 years long. And then you have to go through the licensing examinations, like step number 1, step number 2, then you finish school, and then that's it. And then you can practice as a general physician. I'm sorry, another topic that I wanted to talk about, if you don't mind, can we start with the 5 difficult courses from Sapienza Medical School? So we can go, if you can go in any order you want, descending, ascending.
So I'm just going to go in the order of like chronologically how you learn them. Now I do want to like preface this by saying that difficulty is a very relative thing. What some students might struggle with doesn't mean that other students are going to struggle with, and I think that a personal interest in the topic makes a huge difference. However, there are some that are like universally agreed by medical students all over the world that tend to be very, very difficult. So yeah, so biochemistry is one of the most difficult subjects that students face, especially in Sapienza, because Sapienza has one of the most difficult biochemistry courses in the world. I've talked to medical students from different countries, such as Ireland, England, and Sweden, and we have compared our curriculum for biochemistry and what's required of us from the exam, and I can tell you that they were shocked. Because usually when you are doing biochemistry, you just need to, like, of course you need to know the steps, the names of the steps, and you know what's happening, what type of reaction it is. But in Sapienza, you are required to draw every single molecule and how every, like, the reaction mechanism of every single thing and every single pathway, and it's an instant fail if you can't draw one molecule. So when all these medical students are complaining about having to remember the names of the Krebs cycle and what type of reactions are happening, you need to be able to draw how the electrons are moving from step to step by drawing the molecules, and then what the different branches of those are. And honestly, it's, an example I just remembered, I had to be able to draw the mechanism of what's happening inside the enzyme of pyruvate dehydrogenase. So it wasn't enough for me to say what was happening. I had to actually draw all of the bonds breaking and reforming, and that is unheard of. So I would say objectively, biochemistry is very difficult for medical students, but in Sapienza, it is like next level difficult. It's one of the most nightmarish subjects that we have. So I would say, so biochemistry for sure. The other one is physiology. And the reason why I put physiology, it's a very nice subject in the sense that it's very logical. It always kind of follows a sense. If you can figure out why it does something, it logically makes sense, like the following does. However, physiology is one of the first subjects that you do that is just the equivalent of trying to drink from a fire hydrant, because it is such a huge course. Okay. So like biochemistry you do for 2 semesters, and it is difficult. Like if you are not crying doing this subject, you are doing something wrong. Physiology,
I like biochem though. Like I like biochem.
I love biochemistry, and I got praises, like I got a 30 lode in it, which means like it's full marks and praises from the professor. It counts as a 31 out of 30. But my professor actually said, congratulations, because this is a very, very rare score. I think what carried me though is the fact that I love biochemistry. I was extremely passionate about it. Even to this day, sometimes like when I'm studying for other subjects, I'm just like, should I have just been a biochemist? Like, is being a doctor for me?
I don't think, yeah, maybe you would have liked designing proteins and all that thing, because that's what biochemistry is about, and cell culturing.
I mean,
you don't know.
I actually liked more the processes and steps of metabolism, and like how derailments of those, like in different steps, leads to different pathologies.
Yeah,
but
funny you mention it, because at UT we have a course called precisely Biochemistry of Metabolism.
Yeah, so that would have been like the part that I went into. It would have literally been like the human disease aspect of derangements of metabolism.
I see.
But but I think like even though I was so passionate and I got an incredible grade, my friends can tell you that I was crying every night trying to prepare for that exam. And I thought I was going to fail because it is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. It is a very difficult subject. But if you love it, I think you have more of a chance in it.
Yes, it is an excruciating. I'm sorry not to criticize other majors. Okay, all of them are difficult, but I think medical school, Sarah, is one of the most challenging things that you have to. Getting accepted into medical school is like winning a freaking marathon, okay? Like,
yeah,
everything is a probability. There's no certainty of anything. You have to study like crazy. You have to throw arrows, okay? You have to, okay, I'm gonna try to guess what's gonna be on the damn test. Like, there's no certainty that, okay, this is gonna be here. It's like the cell, the bio, they can't know. They can quiz you on anything they want. Like, it's not that they're gonna tell you, they give you a syllabus, but they're not gonna put everything that's in there. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I mean, sure, but I do think that getting into Italy is kind of easier than other countries, but
yeah,
again, difficulty is relative.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Absolutely. Difficulty is relative. And I also wanted to ask you another question on behalf of our pre-med American students, okay, who might be looking to study in Italy. My question has to do with the courses that might be transferred. So you think, for example, that if a person came from the United States with a bachelor's degree, which is equivalent to a laurea triennale in chemistry or any related subject, do you think, I guess it depends on the professor, but do you think some of them will transfer?
No.
You're saying?
Okay, so to transfer, you're going to need to sit the IMAT anyway. That's guaranteed, unless you are coming from a different Italian course, like a different Italian medicine in English course. But what happens instead is that once you get in through the IMAT, you can go to the office with your transcript. Okay, I'm not sure if my internet cut out. No, okay. You can go to the office with your transcript.
Yeah.
And a syllabus of your curriculum. And based on the credits that were given for your course for each of those topics.
Okay, the question that I had was, when you say a syllabus, is there another document that might be able to replace it? Perhaps a course catalog with a description of the course. Do you think that would work? Or... Can you hear me?
It's the same. It doesn't matter. It's just some list that shows some list that, like, I think the internet is gone.
I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. So when I say a syllabus, I literally just mean anything that details what was covered in the course for how many credits it was worth. So the office, based on your transcript, will see your credits, how many that's equivalent to in our system. And then the professors will sit with your course catalog or syllabus, whatever, just to see what you covered in it. We'll go through it and see if it overlaps enough with what we teach at Sapienza. And based on the credit value, we'll let you know if you are exempt from the exam or not. And then depending on how many exams you're exempt from, you can skip a year or 2 years.
Wonderful.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So I've also seen like some of my classmates, they also came with previous degrees from the UK, and like just as an example, and she had to sit literally just 2 topics of physiology. So I think it was just something small to do with the kidney and the lungs, and so she had 1 question in each, and then she was passed, instead of something that usually takes us a year and a half to do and study for and do an exam on. So it completely depends on your transcript. So how many credits was assigned to that subject and what was covered in it, which the professor will determine from your course catalog or syllabus or whatever.
Sarah, tell us a little bit about the dynamics of the courses at Sapienza. Are they all, with the COVID going on currently, is it everything presential? Some of them are online, some of them... How does that work right now?
So at the moment, I mean, we're currently technically on summer break still, but how the last semester worked was that professors would upload lectures to Google Drive and do meetings on Google Meet. and then they would record these and also put these on the drive. So we had access to the recorded lectures that they presented, and also slideshows or PDFs that had like embedded voice files of them like explaining pictures. This is like especially relevant because we were doing pathological anatomy, which is basically what a pathologist do, which is a lot of tissue sampling and staining. So it's very important that you're gonna, when you do histology, you're gonna find out that everything kind of looks the same. So it was really, really nice having these presentations and slideshows with the pictures, and then the professor leaving a voice note explaining everything. And also we had supplemental like lectures that were recorded that we also uploaded. So we had access to everything. Now, however, with next semester, with things kind of dying down, the system that they created, I think, is kind of silly, but that's just my personal opinion on it. The way it's going to work is that we are split into smaller groups of like 10 people each, and one group will be going to classes in person, and it will be recorded for the other students to follow at home. And then every week, the group will be rotated. So week 1, students 1 through 10 go. Week 2, students 11 through 20 go. Week 3, blah, blah, blah. And it's like this rotating system where you just have to go in once every 3 or 4 weeks, and the classes will be held online for other students to follow.
I see. Sarah, I have another question for you. So when you took the IMAT exam, how did you prepare for it?
So when I took the IMAT exam,
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. 4 years ago, I actually did not know how to study. Now, after 4 years of medical school, I feel like I'm very efficient and effective at studying. But back then, I kind of did not really know what I was doing. I did a lot of bad strategies, but also a lot of good ones. I would say that the one thing that really saved me was using the Pomodoro Technique. I am still a big fan of that till today because...
I want to make a little pause here, just a little pause. So the Pomodoro Technique is something that you can find in one of Shalit's videos. So search for him on YouTube. Basically 25 minutes studying, 10 breaks, something like that, right?
I mean, the Pomodoro Technique is just a study technique where you study for an interval of time, and then you take a shorter interval of time as a break. So the most popular options are taking 25-minute study sessions with a 5-minute break, or 50-minute study sessions with a 10-minute break. Right. I just found these very effective when I started, because I have a really big problem with just starting studying. So like just sitting down and getting started. So it's kind of nice to know that you only have to commit to 25 minutes, and then if you don't want to do it, you don't have to continue. So for me, it was just really effective to sit down and start doing something. Yes. The other thing that I did was I sat an IMAT exam in exam conditions once a week, every week coming up to the exam. And afterwards, I went through all of my incorrect answers, but instead of just learning how to correctly solve them, I actually opened that topic in the book and redid the entire topic as if I was studying it the first time. And you know, then the following week, I would do that with the next practice exam. And then if there was like something overlapping, so say in the first exam I got something wrong in genetics, and then in the second one I did, like a lot of my incorrect answers were from genetics. I was like, okay, like there's something that is not clicking for me with genetics. So then I would go to YouTube and like watch tutorial videos and try to read through it. I mainly used my high school notes because the IMAT is mainly based on Cambridge. I did my schooling in Ireland and our systems are kind of similar. So I just used mostly my high school notes, and where there were gaps, I used Wikipedia and YouTube to fill it up. But I would say doing the exam in exam conditions and then going through the answers, but not just leaving it at, oh, so this is how I was supposed to do it, but actually going into the topic and understanding why it was wrong and how I should have answered it. I think that really, really helped me. I think that's what made my score like so effective, because my score, I think, was only like 48.6, which for these days in the IMAT isn't considered super, super high. But what you have to...
But you got in, sorry.
No, yeah, sure. But what's important to consider is that I was out of high school for 5 years working in companies, and I had only 2 months to prepare. So I prepared for the IMAT literally in 2 months. I wouldn't say from scratch, because my science has always been pretty strong, But so in that way, even though I had a very short amount of time, I managed to get a pretty decent score. Again, it's not amazing, but considering I only had 2 months, it's, I would say, pretty above average. So yeah, I think those would be my like top 2 tips to preparing for the IMAT.
And I want to make a little accusation here. So just like Sarah is saying, quality over quantity, okay? She studied for 2 months, you got that score, you got in.
Yeah.
You don't need immense amounts of preparation to do well on an exam. It's about how you prepare for it, okay?
Yeah, pretty much.
Another thing that I wanted to say, let's see here. Oh, we are hosting, I don't know if it's a good idea for you, but I personally, we at our Premed Hut, we're hosting an event that's gonna be like a little classroom. There's gonna be around 10 students, not including me. We're gonna share instructions for the classroom. You're probably gonna say like, oh, whatever works for you, you know, like you do you. But I just wanna hear your opinion. Since you teach at Sapienza, right? You guys have like a little study group thing, something like a professional, not a professional, like a private course that you had with other students. I think you mentioned it before earlier today.
No, what we have is a little student association. And as a part of this student association, I pushed for and started a mentorship program. So basically from the incoming first years, like 3 or 4 of them are assigned to an upperclassman. And this upperclassman is kind of just like their older sibling for their first year of medical school. Because when you start medical school, especially in an Italian program where no one is holding your hand, no one tells you what to do, professors don't tell you how to study, it's really hard to get started because you feel so lost. So we started this mentorship program where everyone takes on 3 or 4 little first years, and you know, you go for coffee with your first years and they can text you if they have a question, like what resources can they use, where can they study from, how is this exam, how should they prepare, or maybe it's something to do with like where they can get vaccinations, what documents they need, can they find housing. So the thing that maybe I think you're talking about is this mentorship program that we started just so little first years don't feel lost.
Yeah,
maybe that's what you're talking about.
Yes, that's what I was talking about. Okay, that's fine. Nothing, just thank you for sharing that with us anyway.
No problem.
What else can we talk? Oh yes, I was wondering, I am a curious person and I asked you before, what's the research environment like at Sapienza? Do you guys as medical students, how much control do you have over your own research projects? Or
okay, so basically Sapienza being the biggest university in Europe is pumping out a lot of research. That's actually one of the reasons why its ranking is so high, is because it has a huge research department and is pumping out so many papers. Regarding, however, finding research opportunities, that is student initiated. Like I said, especially in Italian courses, no one is going to hold your hand and be like, hey, look at this cool opportunity, come do research with us. No, in Italy, it is very much you get what you take. Like, you need to follow up actively. If you found a professor's lecture interesting, it is your job to go up to the professor after class and be like, Professor, this is something I'm really interested in. And so far from my experience in Sapienza, all of the professors are incredibly enthusiastic about taking students on. Like, to the point now in 4th year, now that we're starting clinical years, I feel like the professors are kind of like running advertisements for us, where they're like doing infomercials saying why we should come to their department and like why we should come and intern with them. Nice. Because, you know, we have our mandatory internship hours in every department, but it's not a lot. And like I said, it's very student initiated. So you basically have to choose where, if you want to do extra internships, if you want to do research, you need to go to the professors. However, I have never, ever seen anyone turned down by a professor asking if they can come and like take a look at the department or ask if they're doing research and if they can join in. Now, I'm not saying that a professor is going to be like instantly like, yeah, we're writing this paper, come, we'll give you authorship. No. Yeah. However, professors are very willing to take you on and show you around. And if you are interested, perhaps even let you do some research, because the most important thing to consider is that an MD requires a dissertation and a thesis. And most of these are based on a research project that you have to do in a certain department. So whether you like research or not, you are going to have to get a little bit of it done to be able to get your MD, because it's a requirement. Presenting and defending your thesis or dissertation is a part of doing an MD.
I have another question. Do these schools consider prior clinical research experience from other countries or no?
So it completely depends on the department that you're trying to apply to do your research in. Something that is super competitive like cardiology, they're probably going to look at your class average. They're probably going to look at how many exams you've sat, probably extracurriculars, but that's just because of how competitive it is. But if you are interested in something that's probably not as competitive, then I'm sure that it does not matter that you have any relevant experience, because you also have to consider that these programs, these medical programs, are designed for students coming out of high school. They do not expect you to have any prior experience.
Okay. Do you, I'm sure neurosurgery is the most competitive specialty, is it? Or do you think it depends?
I think neurosurgery is something that pre-meds and high school students have like this fantasy about, of it being like super difficult. I don't know if it's kind of like Grey's Anatomy that perpetuated this idea, but I can tell you now that neurosurgery is 80% fixing slipped discs, which now orthopedics has pretty much taken over, and taking out masses out of the brain, which is not as complicated because it's not as precise as people like to think. Like when you study neuroanatomy and neurophysiology, you're going to learn that it's incredibly precise, but neurosurgery is kind of very much guesswork. And I don't know, I think like this illusion is by people who don't study medicine, who think that, wow, neurosurgery must be the most difficult because that's what Dr. Strange was. And I think this is just a false idea. Like you could pay me all the money in the world and I wouldn't do neurosurgery.
Right.
And I think that's why people think it's like so cool and so competitive. But realistically, when you get into medicine, you see that it's kind of one of the most boring specialties out there.
Oh, that sucks. I like neurosurgery.
Yeah, that's because you're a pre-med and you have this false pretense that it's the hardest and the most difficult, but that's not the truth at all.
Excuse you? All right, no, that's great, thank you. Yes, neurosurgery indeed is my #1 specialty, followed by hematology. Doctors, you know that. Doctors to study blood. I like psychiatry as well. You've taken psychiatry, of course.
No, not yet. So in 4th year, we've done some applied pathology, which is basically like how you guys divide neurology, blah, blah, blah. So in 4th year, which I've just finished, we do cardiology, pulmonology, which is the lungs, urology, renology sounds wrong, and nephrology. Sorry, nephrology. Yeah, it's late here. I'm tired.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Nephrology, urology, cardiology, pulmonology, and I feel like 1 or 2 more that I'm not remembering. But I think psychiatry comes in 5th year, along with also neurology, rheumatology, infectious diseases, diseases of sensory organs, which is basically ear, nose, and throat, ENT. Also plastics and derm, those are all 5th year subjects. So I haven't done psychiatry yet. I think that's next year. Well, maybe this semester, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at my syllabus yet.
How are classes going, by the way? How's everything going? Everything all right?
I mean, like I said, we don't have classes at the moment.
Right.
September is an exam month, so I will be sitting 2 exams in the next few weeks, and then classes start in October.
Okay, I meant like this, how the semester in general is going. Like everything good so far? No.
I mean, it's as good as it's going to get. We're in a world pandemic. It's hard for everyone at the moment, but yeah, I mean, I can't complain, I guess.
Like, I think, okay, don't like be offended, please, but I think like by itself, medicine is definitely a very difficult career. However,
yes,
compared to other fields like nuclear engineering, organic synthesis, pharmaceutical biochemistry, perhaps.
The thing is, you're making a mistake by comparing courses to different courses. Like, I think it creates an unnecessary air of feeling superior, which I kind of hate in medicine. I really hate, I think that it like dehumanizes doctors to think that they're super prestiged and super above everyone else. I don't like comparing courses to other courses. I think medicine is definitely one of the harder ones in the sense that it is a very long journey. It is much longer than other courses. You can basically do a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD in the same time it takes to do an MD with your internship. The length of time, and for a lot of it, I think also what makes it difficult is that it doesn't feel rewarding.
Yes.
Like everyone thinks that, you know,
I'm sorry, keep going.
medicine is the best thing, and you're going to love it. And it is true, you're going to love it. But
yes.
The first few years is so difficult when you're doing basic sciences and, you know, the professors are expecting so much of you. And there's an air of competition and, of course, some camaraderie, but it is difficult and you do kind of want to give up, not because you don't like medicine, but because it is very overwhelming and your support is weak. And the thing is, like, especially medicine, there's this idea that you are just a studying machine and that's what you're meant to do. You're not meant to be as a human being that isn't doing anything but studying. And it gets really difficult to live up to those standards, and you set standards for yourself. And I think it's difficult in that sense, not because only of the topics that you're doing and the subjects that you're doing, but I think it's a really difficult course because it takes a very long time and a lot of the path is very hard and very emotional, and you don't always know if it's going to be worth it, because once you get out of medical school thinking it's the most difficult part, you find out that actually it's the easiest part, because getting into a residency is harder than getting into medical school. There are now hospitals being sued due to medical students committing suicide from bullying from their upper peers. Like,
gosh,
it's
bullying.
Yes, yeah. If you're a medical student, you are more likely to commit suicide than most other majors, I think, other than computer science, which has the highest one. If you're a female medical student, you're twice as likely to commit suicide. This whole
the research, yeah, I heard the research. I've seen it. It is true.
So all of these cycles of, especially like higher up, like attendings, bullying like residents, and the residents just want to poop on the medical students. And you know, this doesn't exist everywhere, of course not. Like in my experience, the residents and the professors have been nothing but like kind and welcoming, but it is a reality of medicine that you are going to be treated like crap, and it's just a part of the process. And, you know, I think medicine is very difficult in that sense, is that it's very emotionally difficult, but you're always told, like, you're a doctor, like, you know, this is what you deal with, this is your job. And, you know, like I did an autopsy, again, being way too personal and transparent, but I joined in an autopsy. And when I went home, I cried because I was just so shocked by dealing with death. And none of my family was empathetic. They were all like, you're a doctor, you have to be used to this. You're going to be dealing with this every day. And like, it was that lack of empathy that was really surprising, because at the end, like, medical students are still humans. And of course, you're going to get desensitized to death and disease, but like, you're just a student, you're still young, and it starts so early. And I think this is why medicine is so difficult. But I don't like comparing it to other courses, because I think, you know, they all have their own difficulties to deal with. But
absolutely fair. Yeah, I just like feeling superior.
It's not a good attitude to have as a doctor, because you won't connect with your patients.
I am so sorry. And like, I think medicine made me like this, you know, because you have to compete with everybody and their grandma. So like, I feel like you always have to, like, you have this evil need of feeling so powerful and crushing everybody else in your path, you know?
That's like a typical gunner attitude, but I just believe that by raising more empathetic doctors, we're going to have better patient care. And I don't know, that's kind of what my dream is for medicine, but yeah.
I had another question for you. I'm sorry, we're taking actually a long, oh, we have 10 minutes. If you want,
okay,
we can go for an hour, or I just have one last question. If you want, after the question, we can stop. It's up to you.
Honestly fine. You can edit the parts you want out in the interview. We can just keep going.
Okay, sure. So let's just go for 5 more minutes. That's fine?
Yeah, sure.
Wonderful. The other question that I had, doctors, nurses, techs, biologists, scientists, biochemists. Okay. I know you don't like to compare professions, but in a hospital, in your opinion, who's the leader?
Okay, so I think here...
In the medical team.
Yeah, of course. So the thing is that in my answer, you have to understand the difference between being a boss and being a leader. A leader leads and a boss just gives demands.
Yes.
The thing is though, like the leader is just as important as the weakest link of the team. So of course a doctor is meant to be the leader, but the thing is a doctor can't do every single role by themselves. They can't attend to every patient. They can't change every bandage. They can't like go through every single result.
Yeah, sorry, they're human. Sorry, you can keep going.
Yeah, but like I think this is a really bad question actually, because just because doctors are the leader doesn't mean that everyone else is under them in this hierarchy. Like if nurses stopped working, if the tech stopped working, everything would fall apart. I think doctors of course have to be the leaders, but it's more to give direction to the team than to tell them what to do. And I think a good doctor is a good leader because they know the strengths and weaknesses of every member and what the roles are supposed to be. And instead of giving out commands and demands, they actually say, okay, I need you to do this and I need you to do this and I'm going to do this. And, you know, they inform their team. So that's, of course, the doctor is the leader, but the doctor is nothing without the nurses or the techs. And even, I can't remember what they're called, but the people who help, you know, take the patients out of bed to take them to tests and, you know, serve them their food. And it's a huge machine with so many cogwheels.
I just wanted to make a little period right here. I completely agree with everything that you just said. Doctors are not meant to be bosses or put anyone below themselves. However, doctors do have to lead a medical team when they have to lead the medical team, because a doctor might be making a mistake. So a nurse has to take over, or a tech has to take over, isn't it?
I mean, doctors can't know everything. My friend was recently telling me a story of how she was interning with, I can't remember what specialists they were, but they couldn't remember the word femur. They were like, the bone, the one in your leg. The thing is, when you do your specialty for so long, you kind of start forgetting medicine in other irrelevant portions to your job in particular. So I think having nurses that, you know, have a better general idea of everything, I think it can round out a team. I wouldn't like to say, like, I wouldn't talk badly about a colleague saying that like a doctor makes mistakes. Of course, we're human and we do make mistakes, but I think that is also another nice part about having a team, because a doctor can't know everything. They can try, but it's impossible. You spend 6 years trying to do a specialty and you still won't know everything in your specialty. So, you know, of course, that's why you need other people to round yourself out.
Of course, make it teamwork, okay? We as humans, we need people. It doesn't matter who we are. There's that social component, okay? Very important. Okay, Sarah, I think it's getting late on my side. Thank you so much for joining us.
No problem.
Please, by all means, if you wanna talk about all your other social media accounts, if you wanna the Premed Hut to follow you in any way or contribute to your channel, this is the time to do it. If you wanna do it.
I mean, it would be cool if people followed me on Instagram. And yeah, I'm sure you will link it up because, you know, I document a lot of my life in Rome at the moment. It's a bit quiet, but it's getting more, it's going to be getting more active as the semester starts. And of course, my YouTube channel, you can drop in on stream and ask me questions or talk about this anytime you want. So if you wouldn't mind plugging those two in, I would appreciate it. Also, just because I can also help students through that. So.
And I will just say one thing, and then we can end the interview. I will post your YouTube channel on my Facebook page, okay?
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Perfect. All right, Sarah, you go ahead and have a nice rest of your day, okay? Thank you for joining the Premed Hut. Stay tuned.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
See ya. Bye.